Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self love, self care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today, we're going to talk about She's Selfish. I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
And I am Picket Fence. Today's Mindfulness Minute is called Giving Freely of Time and Money. I give of my time and money in order to accomplish transformation in the world. If I recognize a course of action as worthwhile and necessary, I will commit my necessary resource to see the job through to its completion. Nothing can ever be accomplished without the ready commitment of resources. This commitment of resources can be outsourced to another person or corporation, but it cannot be avoided altogether. If a creative task is to move forward, both time and money are necessary. In the life of any would be cultural revolutionary, good creative outcomes cannot be bought. For money without time leads to undeserved success. Time spent on a task without money to back it up, however, perhaps leads to a private fulfillment, but does not transform society. Creative spiritual practitioners give of time and money that they have to put their ideas to work in the world. As you sit in silence, put your full mind and heart into living from a place of deep commitment. Release that part of your personality that takes shortcuts and implements half measures. Free yourself to realize your dreams completely, holding nothing in reserve. Place fear and doubt in abeyance and allow your deepest vision to unfold in your life. Word up.
Word up. So, that mindfulness minute sounds exactly like our guest today, Miss Ashley Browning, who is an author, an educator, an entrepreneur, a life coach, a soul sister, serving her community. Man, what don't you do, Ashley?
And
Word.
I'm trying to figure out how I got enough time to do everything that I do.
Word up. So let's jump into it. Reading on your website, you talk about self-care as a lifestyle. What does that mean to you?
So for me, self-care being a lifestyle is the ability to be constantly in tune with who you are and your emotions. So being able to be aware of how you feel, what state of mind that you're in, if you do need a break, if you do need that space, being able to say, I need a moment. So that is what a lifestyle is for me for self-care, is being able to identify what your needs are and being able to have that space and to actually have that self-care where it is a moment, if it's just journaling or quiet time or just alone time with yourself, to be able to make it day to day.
Word up. I like that. Go ahead, man.
Oh, you got it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you also say that self-care is a divine responsibility, and explain that for the people that might not understand it. You said it's a divine responsibility.
Well, we are soul beings, so being in tune with your spiritual or divine self is our responsibility to know what we need, and be able to articulate our emotions. That's where like emotional maturity comes in, being able to articulate that we are in a space of divineness versus being in a space of being toxic.
Word.
I like that. So, in my picket fence voice, word up. So, tell us, when did you become immersed in self care? Because for a lot of people, it's something that we hear about. Oh, I'm going to the nail spa, that's self care. Oh, I'm gonna take me a bubble bath. But talk to us about how you became fully immersed in self care as a lifestyle.
Maybe around 2018, I was in my current position. I was working with a gentleman, and we were teaching a class through to older adults on safe care through sexual health. And in that class, he was talking about how women especially have this ideology that we have to be superheroes and that we always have a cape on. And it just clicked. I think I was at a point at that point in my life that I tried to act like I had it all together, and I didn't. So it was like a instant like light bulb just went off for me to basically like, okay, you got to work on yourself and you got to figure out how to better take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to be in a community. You're not going to be able to do community work, and because you're going to eventually be pouring from an empty cup. And when you pour from an empty cup, you're not helping nobody. You may think you are, but you are actually, damaging them with your energy and your, vibes that you may be putting off onto somebody else. So that's when I knew I needed to um, be more in tune with myself and realizing that it's okay not to have everything together and say, I'm not okay. And I'm okay. I'm fine with being able to say, I'm not okay now.
Or I think that a lot of us have been taught that, especially women, have been taught that you always have to wear the mask, and sometimes that mask is heavy, and you just have to take it off and sit it aside. You talk about women especially. That was one of the reasons that we started this show. Initially, I was just producing the show. I felt that it was a time in the world, 2016, 2017, that women should be at the forefront and not just being the mothers, but actually being the voice of the community and taking that leadership. And I think that women weren't being heard enough. So that's why I put it together with Lady Bounce and A Slate were first the initial hostess, and everybody knows how busy she is. So Slate had to step aside, and we got another host, Lady Bounce's sister. She's very busy, so that's how I ended up in the co-host seat. But I thought that it was time for women to have a voice, and not only have a voice, to voice their concerns, their love for each other, and to help each other through self-care. So I mean, I like that you took that journey. That's dope.
Thank you. And thank you for creating these spaces for people, especially women of color, for a space like this, because we often don't have safe spaces. So I want to thank you all for creating this opportunity for us.
Or
Okay, so we got to reach back a little bit, and go back to that mindfulness minute where we're talking about giving of self and time. So you've done lots of things, Miss Ashley. We don't even have enough time to talk about the things that you've done. But let's talk about your first baby, which was So Loved. How did you
Yeah.
get involved in that? And why did you? Well, we know why you saw the need, but why did you see the need to create something like that?
So when I first moved back to Dayton, Ohio, it was around 2013. I moved back because my grandfather was ill, and at this time, I've always been in like human services field since like 2009, right? And I was in there in Kentucky, then I moved here and have been in the human services field. When I moved back here, I realized there were some gaps in services, and I realized that if I'm in a crisis situation, I don't have 2 weeks to wait for help. I need it right now. So it was an opportunity for me to say, well, I am able to help people in need, so let's start So Loved. And that is how I started So Loved, is just being able to help people um, without all of those barriers that most systems have in place. So that's how we kind of started in 2013, and we've been pushing since then. We took a year off in 2020, I believe, but of course, we didn't know that the world was shut down. We just thought So Love was taking a break, but I knew that that was our year of rest.
or now talk to us about some of the stuff, because you guys do a lot through Soul Love. So just talk about some of the super dope stuff that you've been able to do through Soul Love.
So currently, we have niched our stuff down to 4 quarterly initiatives. Our initiative for the first quarter is hashtag lunch bag, where we make sandwiches. And I know Lady Bounce, has been in a lot of those events with us. But our initiative where we make lunches and we serve them to the homeless population, or those in need. So it can be group homes, or other transitional housing efforts. Also, our second quarter initiative is a new one, which we just started last year, which is called Mary's Mission Bag, and it's in honor of my godmother who passed away from cancer. So she really liked to shop, right? So that's why the bags is the symbolism for her. So this year we're going to be donating to chemo patients, with chemo patient bags to help them through their journey of chemo. So just, being able to do different bags, with that mission to give to those in need. Last year we were able to do blessing bags for shelters and helping people on the street. We actually went to actual homeless people on the street, and was able to use like personal hygiene items and stuff like that. Also, our third quarter initiative is our Sakatumi Sock Drive, which we probably are most known for, that, and our Night of Giving, which is our fourth quarter initiative. So our sock drive is where we partner with community businesses, churches, organizations, and we collect socks for those in need. And that's for gamut rent of people, school systems, for homeless people, for shelters, for nonprofit organizations, for children that are addicted, parents that are addicted to opiates. So just a gamut of people who may need socks. And we often think, socks is something that everybody has, but it's not. It's actually the least donated item. So that was one of the reasons that we wanted to do the sock drive. Actually, one of my Women of Wisdom sisters, Janisha Bench, is how we called it. She was like, we should do this. And it literally took off. And I think that was maybe 2014 or 2015. And then our fourth quarter initiative is our Night of Giving. And throughout the year, I know that people are at that point where they're just like exhausted. So the Night of Giving is kind of like that push to, like continue. And so it's a party, but it's a party with a cause. So we like to pick a charity, and we give back to that charity for that night. So your adult is free for everybody, but your mission is whatever the need is for that organization.
That's dope. Real dope.
So, as like you said, I've been involved with some of your community service projects, both out loud and on the low, because I don't want people to know what I be doing. But I want to thank you for doing what you do and taking away those barriers, because one of the things that happens with you removing those barriers is it removes the stigma that is associated typically with not having. So I don't have this, but I can't go tell those people that, because I don't want those people in my business, or I don't want them to know that I really don't make a lot of money, and that red tape that I so often hear people complain about and talk about, that stops them from asking for help. So just from me to you, I want to say I appreciate you and your team for taking away those barriers, because we do know that there's a need. We do know that there's that stigma attached to it. So to have somebody who says, forget all that other stuff, what do you need and how can I help? That's just really, really important and super dope for our community. So one of the other things you do is you are a prevention educator. So what does that entail? What is that about? And how do we get this education that you are so freely willing to give?
So I'm a prevention educator for sexual health. And my main focus is mostly STIs, including HIV. So my goal is to be an HIV stigma breaker, because it's a lot of stigma around HIV, especially in the Black community. And my goal is to debunk the myths surrounding that. That is my full-time job, but I am moving that into She Selfish as well. So that's one of my components in She Selfish is sexual health. So that is basically what I do there. So right now I am at 3 different universities in the area to talk about sexual health. And our target right now is 18 to 24-year-olds. But I have learned that the topic is needed for just more than young adults. There's a lot of things that people my age and older still do not know. So I want to be able to provide that information to people, to let them know about HIV and STIs, and to remove that stigma and that barrier of to why African Americans, especially Black women, are 11 times more likely to contract HIV than any other of our counterparts. So we have to figure out like what is the breakdown in that, and why we are so high for everything, not just HIV, but if you know anything about health disparities, African Americans are at the top of everything. So being able to provide that education and awareness is what my job as a prevention educator is.
Word up. I like that a lot. Now you mentioned She's Selfish. Tell us about She's Selfish. And I saw, on your website too, that you talked about um it was a time that you needed to raise the frequency in your life. And a lot of people don't know what that terms mean. It's usually a term used in people who are students of metaphysics. So talk about that first and then jump into She's Selfish.
So for me, the frequency is that, that we attract who we are type thing. And so I was at a point where, I've always been around like pretty decent people, but it was the point that I wanted to be around great people, right? So I had to work on some things in myself to be able to attract what I needed. So it's like you put the energy that you put back, that you put out into the universe, you get it back. So I was at a point where, like I said, it was probably around that time that I started self-care, that I was at a point that I was just spent, and I wasn't happy in any area of my life, really. So it was a point where I was like, I need new people, to be surrounded by new people that can help me get to the next level, and we can help each other. So that was that frequency. Let me raise this frequency. Let me figure out, let me do some work. Let me do some shadow work. Let me do some healing for myself to be able to attract those type of people that I want in my life. And for She's Selfish, well, let's go back. I started with two partners. She Self-Care Ain't Selfish. I had two co-owners, and we started that in 2018, maybe, I believe, or 2019. And it is a safe space for women of color to be transparent through events. We started that, and I always knew at that point when that was starting, and I told them in the beginning, like, I know there's more that I need to do with this. So that is so She's Selfish is pretty much like a spin-off to that, because I knew I needed to do self-care coaching. And that is pretty much the idea behind She's Selfish, is to get people out of, like Lady Bounce said, get people out of the idea of thinking it's just a manicure or pedicure. This is everyday work within yourself to get you to a point of not just being on autopilot, to actually living. So that is where She's Selfish comes in, to be coaching sessions, events as well, self-care events as well. We are currently doing a self-care challenge right now for 7 days. So just being able to do different things that people don't normally think about when it comes to self-care.
Word up. And I also saw you said, I don't know if it's the same as the coaching, but you titled it Self-Care Strategist.
Yes.
Break that down for us.
So I ain't want to be, everybody coaches out here, right? Everybody want to be a coach or a life coach. So I ain't really want to be a coach, but I am a certified life coach. But I wanted to be a strategist. And when a strategist is more than a coach is I'm gonna cheer you on, I'm gonna get you to where you need to go. A strategist is let's make this plan to get you to where you need to be. So I wanted to kind of, I'm gonna be a coach / a cheerleader / let's make a plan too.
Or
I definitely like the let's make a plan piece to it, because it provides accountability on both sides. Because I know, from your standpoint of being just a coach, it's probably infuriating when you're talking to people and you're telling them, okay, you should do this and let's do it this way. And then they come up with every excuse in the book to not do it. Oh, I can't today. I'm tired. Oh, I couldn't do it because of this. So definitely that strategist piece and that accountability piece is so important, especially when it comes to services that you're paying for. I know so many people that they start out in January, they go get that gym membership and they're paying for it for 3 months, but they haven't been to the gym since January. because there's nobody there saying, hey, meet me at the gym at 2 o'clock. At 2:05, you're considered late, and that's 15 extra push-ups. So that accountability piece is so important. So, with that, how do we find out more and to get your services? Because, girl, you do so much.
So love right now. So my two focuses are so love and she's selfish right now. So love, we are in the middle of adding board committee members to expand our organization to help plan or execute some of our community initiatives, the four that I named. We are in the middle of doing that right now. We are also in the middle of a pitch contest to for our future. So hopefully we can gain some money through that for our future expansion. And so just follow us on social media. It is so love underscore so underscore love J316 on all platforms. And also with She's Selfish, like I said, we are in the middle of a self-care challenge right now. We actually have about 272 women signed up for it. It is for the next 7 days, well, 6 days now. And then we will, at the end of the challenge, we will have a panel of people, a virtual panel for people to talk about the 8 components of self-care. And then we will have quarterly events as well with She's Selfish. So you can follow us on our webpage, which is www.sheselfish.com. Sheselfish.com LLC is on all other platforms: Pinterest, Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And we are just looking to connect with women who are ready to do the work. And also with So Love, if you would like to be a volunteer, it is a way that you can go to our website and be a volunteer there as well.
Dope. Now, with all the hats that you wear and all the umbrellas you carry, how do you find time for self-care, and what is your favorite go-to for self-care?
So I make it a point to not do anything one day a week. Well, actually I have two, but one is a spiritual day. Thursdays are now my day of self-care. So I don't do anything that day that I don't want to do. So that is a day that I take for me to do any spiritual work that I may need to do. If I want to get my medi or petty that day, that's the day that I do that. If my day to journal, that's my day to meditate a lot more than I normally do. I have a morning routine and a night routine as well for self-care. So I try to take at least 5 to 10 minutes for myself a day. And also, like I said, I have that whole day dedicated to do what I want, when I want, how I want it, and not be bombarded with, oh my God, I got to do this to-do list, or I got to do this, So that is my day to do what Ashley Nicole Browning wants to do. And then I also have a Sabbath, which I do, and that is my spiritual day with my higher power. So I want to just say, take that time to, I know it with as mothers and parents, it's a little bit harder, but if you can get at least 5 minutes or on your way to work, you can use that time in a car to not listen to music. And it can be either, your coaching time for yourself. That's when you may want to say your affirmations in the car, or you may want to listen to a podcast or something motivational or something like that. So take that time in the morning or at night before you go to bed. And I know a lot of times when I get into bed, I just want to go to bed sometimes, but still remember, okay, maybe I need to do a wind down or a deep breath or deep breathe so I can get, all of today out of me so I can keep going for the next day. Because a lot of times if you got too much going on from the previous day, when you lay down, you're going to wake up and you feel like you didn't get no sleep because you didn't get out the previous day's stuff out of you. Mm-hmm. So making sure that you take that time. I have at night, I try to do a gratitude journal where I write down three things that I'm grateful for that day. And that I look at that and reflect on what it can be. I'm grateful that I didn't have to park far. That can be something so as simple as that. I'm grateful for life in my body. We take those things for granted every single day. So just thinking about that is also my theme. I do things for the year. So gratitude or being grateful is my theme for 2022. Last year was to be kind to myself. So thinking of things that, it can be a theme for your life, thinking of things that you can do daily that is simple. I also have on my website a site, She's Selfish. I have a link where you can do, I have music, free music on there, which is self care music, meditation music, some affirmations that is free on there. I have coloring pages for people who like to color that is free on there. I have a calendar on there that is 30 days or whatever the month entails. And it gives you something to do different each day. So like today, making up something. It can be um, no social media for today. So you have a different task each day, and all of that stuff is for free on my website. Is sheselfish.com backspace links, and you have a whole page of things that's just free. And like I said, listening to music is simple. We often take that for granted because that's something that we do every day, but be intentional about the songs and the playlists that you choose. So just be more intentional in your self-care, and I think that will, make you be more in tune with what self-care really is.
Word up. I love it, love it, love it. Now, before we get out of here, we got to get into my favorite part of the show. Doom, 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 doom. Brain science, science, science.
All right, so this week for our brain science, we're talking about 3 powerful science-based benefits of a little self-love. We just heard from our guest about how she is intentional with her self-care, and you may be asking, well, how do I become intentional about my self-care? Let me tell you the science behind it and why you should do it. So, are you highly self-critical? Do you beat yourself up over your failures? Do you work too hard or push too hard without giving yourself time to breathe? Do you feel the need to compete, to outperform others? Do you live with shame or a sense of not being good enough? Self compassion is what you are lacking. Self compassion leads to increased strength. It does not mean that we stop working hard and aiming for success. Instead, it is a change in attitude, and it is linked with greater well being as well as superior performance outcomes. Nor does self care imply self indulgence. For example, a parent cares about her child and insists on that child eating well, the parent must also eat well as well. Self compassion leads to increased productivity. When you are motivated by self compassion, you understand failure not as a painful indicator of defeat, but as a learning opportunity for growth which you can follow. Whereas self criticism leads you to painful and self defeating emotions in the face of failure. Self compassion therefore embraces challenge. People with higher self compassion are therefore more likely to improve their performance after failure. So it's making you a little bit stronger in every way. Self compassion leads to decreased stress. Through research into the psychology of self compassion versus self criticism, um, a simple motto says your fight or flight senses that everybody has. When something happens, do you run to it? Do you run away from it? How do you deal with it? That is an elevation of our stress hormone. So when we practice self compassion, we are inviting cortisol into our brain, which makes us be able to pause a little and think before we act. Also known as the cuddle hormone, oxytocin is released in lactating mothers during hugging and during sex, and it is also associated with feelings of well-being, trust, and loyalty. So, 3 quick practices for becoming more self-compassionate through self-care. Write yourself a letter. Take the perspective of a compassionate friend so you can imagine that you are this other person. What would a compassionate and kind friend say to me right now? Write that down. What would their words be? Come back and read the letter and receive all that love and positivity. Write down your self-talk. If you are self-criticizing because your jeans don't fit or you said the wrong thing in a situation, write down the self-critical words that come to mind and then ask yourself if you would ever say these things to a friend. If you wouldn't say it to a friend, then don't say it to yourself. Develop a self-compassion mantra. Develop something that is easy to memorize, such as I am great, I am wonderful, and I have purpose in this world. Something very simple you can say to yourself throughout the day to remind yourself of your greatness. Last but not least, meditation. Meditation is a process in which you contemplate and relax. It begins to loosen that grip of self-criticalness that we often put upon ourselves. So find a self-care practice that works for you and allows you to create a space in which you can quiet your mind and love on yourself. Self compassion entails being warm and understanding toward ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate. Rather than ignoring that pain or fledgling ourselves with criticism, self compassionate people recognize that being imperfect, failing, and experiencing life's difficulties are inevitable. So they tend to be more gentle with themselves when confronted with painful experiences rather than getting angry when life falls short. When this reality is accepted with sympathy and kindness, greater emotional equanimity is achieved.
Word up. Dope, 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 dope. Well, that's our show for today. Remember, you can find us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We're on all social media: Facebook, IG, Twitter, and now on TikTok. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at flywithusla@gmail.com. Miss Browning, thank you once again for being a part of the show. We definitely have to have you come back. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff for Women's Month, so we would love for you to come back and be on one of the different women's panels that we are setting up.
All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you all.
Word up. And it's your boy Picket Fence.
I'm your girl, Lady Bounce.
We out of here. Peace.
Peace.